too much for term life insurance? A man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $110 per month. Level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, there are great rates available for you as well. Call Term Busters for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, call Term Busters. 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate for preferred non-tobacco rate class. Exam required to qualify.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Hey parents, you don't need the latest gizmo, slang, or clothes to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 AM WBNW. This is WBNW, 1120 AM, the Money Matters Radio Network. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Congratulations to the students and staff of Emergence Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts for their winning submission to the state's Power of Presence initiative. The school's amazing video will help spread the word about the power of students being in school every day. To see the video and learn more, visit us at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a new guide available this month. It is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Mike, when you look at the big reasons that someone might want to undertake trust planning and how that dovetails with financial planning, what are the big items that come up for a lot of people?
Yeah, for most common reasons, there's four that I think about. One, in certain states and across the country, there's an estate tax, and so there's trusts that can help you mitigate the cost of that estate tax for future generations. There's trusts that can allow you to do sorts of bloodline planning. Maybe you have minor children and you're worried about passing away young. You can have trusts that are set up to deal with that situation. You have trusts that can avoid probate. And then the fourth one is sometimes a trust that might help deal with creditor protection. Sometimes a nursing home would be one of those creditors.
When we talk about financial planning, generally we're talking about things such as budgeting or investment allocations and things like that, and making that work to get you the money when you want it. How do you view trusts as fitting into that as well?
Well, it's one of those boxes that you need to check, and it goes along with other estate planning documents like a will, like a healthcare proxy. But important for most people, especially those in New England, to at least have the conversation around trusts and whether or not it fits into their strategy.
The guide, again, is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and it is available for you to request at no cost. All you have to do is call 800-393-4001. The title, again, is Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and the way to request the guide is by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funerals. funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams, your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical conditions as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Kicking off our Thursday show, it is Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and pretty light news day today with, here's the small stuff that we have to work through. There's a court that struck down a bunch of tariffs, the largest semiconductor manufacturer in the world by dollar volume reported earnings. And those are,
the largest company in the world. Generally,
it depends on the day.
Yeah,
it depends on the day. That's why I didn't, go that way. But look, we've actually got a boatload to talk about, and I think we have to start with this tariff piece because here's what happened. At 6:15 yesterday, I was sitting down having a lovely fajita dinner at home.
Nice,
as I tend to, and all of a sudden, my phone starts buzzing, and I'm like, that's interesting. Like, who could be calling right now? And in fact, it was no one. But I did get an alert that the the Court of International Trade, who I have their T-shirts, I've been to all their concerts,
sure.
I follow them very closely. They issued a ruling basically striking down a wide swath of tariffs that the Trump administration had imposed. Interestingly enough, the alerts that I got weren't from any major news source because no major news source picked this up until like an hour and a half later, which I found kind of wild and is just mind-blowing to me that basically no one was paying attention to this and no one knew what to do with it once it came out for like an hour and a half. It wasn't even, a CNBC alert that came through and said, that was at like 7:45 or 8 p.m.
So here's the rules that they Trump administration has been using. It's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977.
Commonly known as IEEPA.
IEEPA. And the quote from the three-judge panel was, the court does not read IEEPA to confer such unbounded authority and sets aside the challenge tariffs imposed thereunder. This was a suit brought by something like a dozen different states, as well as 5 or 6 individual companies who would have been affected by these wide sweeping tariffs. And this court struck it down. Was it unanimous? I didn't.
Yes,
see.
so it was a
three-judge panel that ruled unanimously.
It was a 3-judge panel that ruled. Just so everyone knows, again, like, no one follows the international, the Court of International Trade. No one has any idea what the heck they do, to be completely honest. It is a 9-judge group that sits. The ones that sat for this case, one was an Obama appointee, one was a Reagan appointee, and one was a Trump appointee. So
don't give me all the liberal bias.
I don't think you can look at this and be like, well, it was a bunch of Obama judges. No, like, one of Trump's own appointed judges did this, and I'm not here to say whether this is right or wrong, but more just to say, hey, like, at least in the composition of who viewed this case, you can view it as being pretty balanced, I think. And the big thing, the tariffs that were struck down, they pulled 3 of them. I actually, by the way, this is the first time I've ever read a full legal, not a brief, but a full legal decision. It was like a 40-page decision, and I sat down last night to be like, what is going on here? Because this is kind of a big one. It's kind of important. And basically there were 3 different tariffs that this court ruled on. And when you look at how they broke this down, the first one was a set of tariffs imposed on China, Mexico, and Canada related to fentanyl trafficking. And not to, tariff the fentanyl that was being trafficked, because obviously if something's being smuggled, it's kind of hard to tariff it.
It's illegal in the first place.
No one declares at the border, hey, I've got a bunch of fentanyl, here's the market value of it.
Right.
The court said, look, if you want to go and stop fentanyl trafficking, that's all well and good, but tariffs cannot be imposed by the executive branch for the purpose of leverage, because they do not actually do anything to stop the flow of fentanyl in and of itself.
Okay.
So that was part one. The second big piece was the reciprocal tariffs, which were imposed on April 2nd, went into effect later, and so on and so forth. And the court basically said, look, you can't have this, you can't be using the IEEPA, which requires you to, declare a state of emergency for something that can last forever, because that basically means that you are using the word emergency in a way that doesn't really fit with how it's used in the English language. And so, no, you can't actually do this.
I find that one interesting.
I'm not a legal scholar,
Yeah.
so I'm
because,
not,
for instance,
I'm not evaluating these on the merits.
Yeah.
Because I have no. Mike,
like, for example,
you and I did not know this court existed before yesterday.
Well, for example, right? Like, could you claim that there is a permanent emergency when it comes to the tariffs that are going to be placed on steel and aluminum? I think you would be given more leeway on that, but nonetheless, this is the merits they struck it down on. There is no potential end to this, and therefore you can't use it. Okay, next.
So you've got 2 of those. The first one was known as the trafficking tariffs. That's the first one. Second was worldwide and retaliatory tariffs. And those were basically, again, those are 2 and 3. So those were the combined ones that you had there. And the interesting thing in this ruling is that it is something where, even though they disagreed and said, look, you can't impose these tariffs this way, they did pretty much go out of their way to be like, hey, here are a bunch of other ways that you could go and impose tariffs if you wanted to.
Right.
And if you did them this way, these are the limitations of what you can and can't do. But if you really want to impose tariffs, here are the noted case laws that you can use and the different sections of U.S. government regulations that you can go about using. So, basically where we stand right now is they gave the executive branch 10 days to pull this back and do something else. They also said, look, you can't just modify these to go on and, change them. You're not going to do these anymore.
Right.
So they said you can't modify them, which means that the president and the White House have to go and kind of reformulate their plan.
Or appeal immediately and get heard by a court very quickly.
Either way, there's no guarantee that there's, a stay that gets put in place on this, and this would actually have to go to the federal appeals it's a federal circuit of the appeals court, so it's separate because there's a certain circuit court that covers this jurisdiction of stuff that falls beyond the purview of stuff happening in any particular state or region of the country. So it then goes to that federal circuit appeals court, and that, from what I've seen, in order to get a final ruling, potentially could take 3 to 4 months. Because remember, this ruling took 3 to 4 months to get here because the lawsuit started pretty quickly.
Yep.
And so I think
not quite 3 or 4 months, right? When was the first announcement of the fentanyl tariffs? I think that was March.
March. Again, it's almost 3 months. It's almost June.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was. I'm seeing if I can find when
2.5 months thereabouts
filed here. I can't find it. It's not really relevant. Or it's not really useful, but it could be a few months. So Goldman Sachs came out yesterday with a piece basically saying, hey, here are some of the relevant areas that could be used. I poked around with noted legal scholar ChatGPT to see, some of these things, and it came up with some of the stuff that Goldman did. So what I want to do, I want to take a break here, and then when we come back, talk about some of the things that you may see the Trump administration engage over the next days and weeks if they want to put some or all of these tariffs back in place while this case is making its way through the legal system. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll kind of go through some of the options there with the full understanding. None of us have any idea what's going to happen on this because I look at pretty much every juncture that we've gotten to, and while I think we may have had the broad strokes right, I don't think there's anyone who's been exactly right on every single thing. So it's just, hey, let's learn about what can potentially happen from here, and we'll see where we go. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk about some of those tariff tools that could be used by the White House after this.
Get up-to-the-minute market updates with Wall Street Watch, weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who can make sure your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and their new monthly guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may correct an issue that could come back to haunt you in the years to come. Proper estate planning is crucial to you being able to enjoy your later years, and it may be the difference between retiring comfortably or living under incredible financial pressure. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. And now's the perfect time to register for this year's 5K at Castle Island by visiting dav5k.boston. The event will sell out again, so if you're interested in participating, now's the time to reserve your spot. Come out and help support our great American heroes by joining us for the DAV 5K. Visit dav5k.boston to register or to make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
All right, so you've got this ruling from the U.S. Court of International Trade, which kind of wild, actually, that this thing exists, like as a
standalone court.
I was reading just the Wikipedia history of this puppy, and basically there's always, not always, but dating back to 1890, there was always some group that would help to sort through like customs disputes in the United States, because like they would be a problem. One of my favorite stories, not a U.S. custom dispute, but just while we're on the topic, you're familiar with ice, right? The substance that water makes when it freezes.
I thought we were talking about immigration and customs enforcement. So.
No, ice. So the first commercial ice exporter in the world was actually from Massachusetts.
That guy from Frozen?
No, it was actually it was not Kristoff. It was actually in Massachusetts. I forget the pond. It was some pond up on the North Shore somewhere.
Okay.
But they started exporting ice.
Across state lines or... Okay, never mind. Doesn't matter.
Everywhere they could. They got to the point where they actually were shipping ice across the ocean to the UK in order to provide the UK with ice, because as cold as it might get in the UK, it doesn't generally get ultra freezy, and they didn't have any ice. Ice gets to the UK. It sits on the dock until it melts because the customs people could not figure out what to classify it as for import, because no one had ever imported ice into the United Kingdom before. So it literally melted into water on the docks the first time they tried to do it. Getting back to this. So Goldman Sachs comes out and says, okay, you've had this ruling by the United States Court of International Trade. What can the executive branch do from here if they want to reimpose these tariffs while things are making their way through the legal system? The simplest and cleanest thing that they can do is using something called Section 122 authority which gives the president the ability to impose tariffs or quotas on all imports from all countries if they want to, if the U.S. balance of payments is seriously threatened. And this can be a maximum 15% tariff that they can go up to, which, remember, we had a blanket 10, so that covers it. The catch is that this has a maximum duration of 150 days that it can be in effect before it requires congressional approval in order to be extended from there.
At least gives you time to work through the courts.
So that's a possibility. You don't need any justification. You can basically just slap this thing on and say, yep, here we go. We're going with this, and we're going to put this into place. So that's one thing that you can do. Other things that are being talked about. Section 232. This is the portion of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, which allows for tariffs to be imposed if imports of goods threaten national security. And this is what's currently still being imposed. By the way, this was not struck down by this court. This is still being imposed for auto imports and for steel and aluminum imports. Yep. So those are still in place. And pretty much what you can do is the Secretary of Commerce calls for an investigation. They then present a report to the president, and the president has 90 days to decide on action and implement at that point.
But these specifically would not be broad across the board, because I don't think you're going to slap tariffs on champagne for national security concerns. You would have to go after specific products, it seems. So
either
maybe
specific products or
drugs,
specific countries.
Yeah, drugs or other items.
Semiconductors, drugs, things like that you can do. Another one that you can go through, Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. The U.S. Trade Representative, again, initiates an investigation, this time looking for unfair trade practices, which relates to textiles and apparel. So you've got some more targeted things that you can do there. But the ones that seem like they are being talked about, and probably the ones that are next to be seen, that's Section 122, which allows for rapid blanket tariffs to be put in place, and then the 232 tariffs for national security, and 301 for country-specific tariffs.
Okay.
What does this all mean?
I think short term, it means that, immediate term, companies are probably still paying tariffs on imports for the next few days here, but have no idea what to do when it comes to products that might be shipped into the U.S. over the coming weeks. It raises significant questions about the Trump administration's leverage with countries with which they are negotiating, because if you're
another country, you're not negotiating anymore as of today.
I think you might still be negotiating, but your end goal is simply delay, because you don't want to make the Trump administration so angry just by walking away from the table, because for all you know, Supreme Court might just overrule all this and say, no, they're fine to go do this. So I don't think they want to just piss off the White House, but I do think their end goal is delay as far as you can and don't negotiate hard.
I disagree.
So?
If I am a country that is trying to negotiate these tariffs away, and these tariffs are now away, I'm not doing anything until I know whether they're back or not. Otherwise, I'm just negotiating against myself.
Yeah, you are, unless it's, okay, well, now I have the power again, and since you were unwilling to negotiate during this period of time, I'm retaliating with 40% tariffs on you. That is a real threat, I think, that the White House could use.
We think they're going to believe that after last Friday?
I don't know.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk Nvidia after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much, and they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
There are critical mistakes you can make during the estate planning process that may have a damaging effect on your financial strategy. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Get yours today and make the right decisions to protect your assets. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, a lot of people create their estate plan, but there are some that don't actually transfer assets into it. Can you explain why this is such a big mistake?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to try to explain it both from a revocable and an irrevocable planning standpoint. With the revocable, if you don't put assets in there, you end up leaving them owned perhaps jointly if you're married, and designated beneficiaries and the like. But if everything goes to the spouse, when one dies, then you've completely avoided your estate plan. In other words, you've set your trust up, but you went around it by leaving everything to the spouse instead of going through it by funding the trust and cramming down the assets to shelter some from estate taxes on the first death, so there's less taxed on the second death. And ultimately, on the second death, if you don't plan, there could be a probate problem because everything would go to probate if it's in their own name. The other big reason is with an irrevocable trust, of course, not funding it also can result in estate tax problems by the same way it did with the revocable trust. But in addition to not funding them with the irrevocable, you don't even begin the 5-year waiting period to get the assets protected from the nursing home. So there's a much bigger problem not funding an irrevocable trust versus not funding a revocable trust. So make sure you fund your trust if you do your planning.
Well, luckily, Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by simply calling 866-848-5699, 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Busy day on Wall Street where traders are reacting to several market movers this morning, including a setback for President Trump's tariffs, where a federal court ruled Trump didn't have the authority to impose sweeping tariffs on virtually every nation, voiding the levies The Trump administration plans to appeal the ruling. On top of all of that, we have earnings from Nvidia. Right now, the Dow is up by only 6 points now. S&P 500 is up by about 1/3% or 18 points, and the NASDAQ is up just over 0.5% or 105 points higher. Russell 2000 is completely flat. 10-year Treasury yield is down by 2 basis points, now at 4.45%, and crude oil down about 2% lower, trading at $60.68 a barrel. Nvidia posted better than expected first quarter results where the chip maker saw its sales continue to boom despite the company being shut out of China. Revenue reached just over $44 billion or a 69% increase. Chuck and Mike will have more on Nvidia coming up here, and that stock is actually up by 4%. Other chip makers seeing gains as well. Meanwhile, Best Buy down by over 8% after the consumer electronics retailer lowered its full-year guidance for sales and adjusted earnings per share. The company's CFO said the reduced outlook was due to tariffs. For the quarter, Best Buy missed quarterly revenue forecasts. Elsewhere, Salesforce reported better than expected earnings and raised its annual sales outlook as AI continues to boost its business. Earlier this week, the company agreed to pay $8 billion for data management software maker Informatica. Salesforce is actually down by over 6%. And United Airlines and JetBlue agreed to enter a partnership called Blue Sky that will allow customers of either airline to earn frequent flyer miles on the other. The agreement will also allow United Airlines to return to JFK International Airport in New York, which it left back in 2015. United Airlines is up by over 1%, while JetBlue shares are retreating by 3%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
I wonder what JetBlue got for that.
For co-marketing the flights? I mean,
for giving them space at JFK.
Yeah.
There's one reason and one reason only why United's doing this right now.
They don't like Newark, yeah.
They have a major hub at Newark, and they know that Newark is in deep crap.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to give JetBlue a whole lot. Like, quite honestly, just the idea of
you gotta
marketing,
give them something.
Well, you're marketing their flights on your page. Isn't that enough? For JetBlue, right? This company
not really.
Is
JetBlue needs
really
money.
Struggling.
JetBlue needs money.
Yeah.
Like that's JetBlue needs money and has gates at JFK.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe there's some cash.
There's got to be something going back there. Because if all you're doing is just giving up the space so that someone else can like take it, then it doesn't seem like great business to me. But I've also never run an airline.
Neither have I, but there hasn't been much that I could describe as great business over at JetBlue over the last 5 years.
It's been a challenge, and it really sucks because I really used to like JetBlue.
Yeah, they've fallen way behind.
They're still fine-ish. Like, here's the thing that I will say.
Sorry, I'm not going to call them fine-ish when they have fallen in the worst or second to worst reliability category.
They came in
for
best
like
this year.
3 years in a row, really?
Yes, and this is what I was going to say, is it's basically what area of the country gets hit by bad storms in any given year. And if it's your area and your number's up, okay, like you're taking the hit.
I don't know. JetBlue has been very much towards the bottom for I think the last 5 years.
Let me pull this because I just saw this. Hang on, I just saw this a week or two ago. I want to make sure that I get it right. No, don't even do that. It's gonna take me. Here we go. Got it. 22 days ago. And again, it's JD Power, but these are the guys who always do this stuff. They have their North American Airline Customer Satisfaction Survey.
Okay.
JetBlue Airways ranks highest in customer satisfaction with a score of 738. Delta was second. Alaska was third. So, again, it just depends on like what storms hit in any given year, and that's where you end up. So last year, there weren't any giant storms in Boston or New York, and so JetBlue was fine.
So I have always looked at the Wall Street Journal's airline reliability rankings, and this is where JetBlue comes to mind, and I'm looking for the previous data. But in 2024, they ranked JetBlue as 6th out of 9.
So, like, fine-ish, like middle of the pack.
Yeah.
You know? 4 through 6 is middle of the pack.
I'm going to look through the previous years because it has been a struggle.
It's been bad, but I think it's just like, hey, you had a few years where New York was just getting pummeled by stuff, and so JFK is not a good place to operate out of. Who's worst on that list, Mike, for the most recent year?
It was Frontier, followed by Spirit, and then American. American worse than JetBlue.
I don't even know where Frontier or Spirit are based out of. Do they even have like real hubs? Or is it just, hey, we'll land the plane where we land it and you got a taxi to wherever you get? Like,
yeah, that's
been
my experience.
You thought you were flying Boston to Vegas? Here's Atlantic City. There are casinos there too.
Yeah.
Close enough, right? Let's talk about Nvidia. They reported earnings after the bell yesterday, and I think this can best be described, and this is by people, who follow Nvidia more closely than I do, as a confusing earnings report because you're trying to strip out the impact of not being able to sell to China as much as you used to be, but also what's going on, like how much is that actually impacting margins and sales growth, and how much of that inventory is being repurposed to be sent somewhere else.
And
it's just
how big of a question mark is your long-term ability to sell into China?
Right. So I think this is one that is viewed kind of confusingly. Now, the stock did enough to, kind of please any critics immediately after. It was up about 6% after hours. As we sit here right now, it's up about 4%. So, clearly you look at it and you say, okay, like they did something right. But the piece that's, I guess, interesting to me is, look, they shipped $44 billion worth of revenue in the quarter.
Mm-hmm. 69% increase.
It's a lot of stuff. I mean, that's $500 million a day of chips. And 69% increase, as you said, but only a touch higher than expectations. Expectations were for $43 billion and change in revenue. And I point this out simply because in 2023, like we'd have the quarters where people would be expecting like $8 billion in revenue for Nvidia, and they'd come in with like 14.
Yep.
And so the magnitude of the beats is narrowing.
Well, the expectation, I think, was weaker here. I don't think investors were expecting quite as much of a surprise because of the China situation.
Correct. But I think the point that I'm getting at is they still are seeing... they're not knocking the cover off the ball the way they used to in terms of beating expectations. And maybe it's just that we understand the business better. I use the collective we... for analysts who follow the stock, maybe that it's just analysts understand the business better and know how to price, what's going on there. But you're not seeing, them beating revenue by, 40% like they used to, or 50% or 60%. It's much more like a conventional company where, the revenue might beat by, single digits in terms of percentages, and then you can go from there. It's not what it was in 2022, and it probably never will be again because that's just not sustainable. I think the two pieces that are the long-term questions for them, what happens with China, and the additional sales that they're drumming up through the Middle East, through these data center partnerships and things like that, how big do those get, and can those replace any potential lost China revenue?
Right.
That's, I think, the ball game for them. Everything else, look, I don't follow like where every chip from Nvidia gets sent in this and that, but everything else in the broad numbers is pretty good as long as that margin weakness, gross margins drop from the mid-70s down to 61. If that margin weakness is real and not just a China issue, then you start looking at this a little differently. They've pretty much said, hey, we expect these margins to rally back into the low 70s. Okay, you've got a few quarters to do that. If they don't, and if they continue tailing the wrong way, then it tells you something about how competition's affecting, their business and how it potentially impacts their profitability going forward.
The other big question that I have outside of Nvidia here is very simply, are the export restrictions to China going to be successful or not? And by successful, I mean, will it delay China's domestic AI and chip industry? I have some doubts there, but I'm not an expert on all of this. What the Trump administration has effectively done is taken the Biden restrictions, ramped them up, but allowed for Nvidia to sell to many other countries that were areas of concern for the Biden administration.
Yes.
And the question is, can you really trust that a chip going to Saudi Arabia doesn't end up in China ultimately?
Right.
Because I bet the Chinese are willing to pay a pretty high price for that chip that Saudis can now buy.
Sure.
And
right, you got the Saudis who are going to be buying these. The Qataris are going to be buying. I mean, there's
can they reverse engineer it as well as they have just about everything else and continue to build that walled-off city of an economy that China has been seeking for decades now of we can make it here, consume it here, and not have to worry about which country hits us with restrictions next.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, a little bit more on the current state of U.S.-China trade. Maybe a couple of little hurdles popping up here and there. We'll discuss right after this.
Text us at 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we are covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who can make sure your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and their new monthly guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may correct an issue that could come back to haunt you in the years to come. Proper estate planning is crucial to you being able to enjoy your later years, and it may be the difference between retiring comfortably or living under incredible financial pressure. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Piece of the New York Times, title is Export Controls Are Endangering the Fragile U.S.-China Truce. And basically on May 12th, about 2.5 weeks ago, we had the announcement that the tariff rates were coming down in both directions. And basically then what we have seen, one of the things that was supposed to happen was China was supposed to start resuming the export of rare earth materials to the United States. A lot of these things are used in the production of, motors for cars, semiconductors, aircraft, lots of stuff that spins uses these rare earth materials. And what we have seen is instead China has only turned the spigot back on a little bit, it seems like, and in response, the United States has suspended the shipment of American semiconductors and some jet engine equipment that is needed for China's commercial aircraft to China. So even though tariff rates have come down, it's not exactly like everyone is just, playing nice now. There still are some tensions and things that are being worked through that, again, can probably be resolved in the next however long. Or, you could see a case where this potentially ratchets up again and becomes more contentious.
Yeah, this is one of the key areas we've highlighted all along is the non-tariff barriers that can be put into place by China when it comes to strategic industries. And yeah, I mean, it affected Ford. They had to close down an Explorer manufacturing facility for a week because...
Not enough magnets.
Not enough magnets. Can't make the cars without the magnets. And let's be clear, other than the F-Series trucks, it's about the last manufacturing facility Ford wants to close down.
I would imagine.
I mean, that's one of their most profitable vehicles that they produce, and there's a lot of demand for it. So I think that that's probably up there in terms of most profitable areas to shut down of their business.
And probably highest volume also. Yeah. I'd imagine that one is up there as well. So I think this will be something that we have to monitor over the next, over the rest of the summer to see how it evolves and how this potentially impacts the economies of both countries, even, kind of without the tariff piece being front and center.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Megan's Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI is everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visit usvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visit usvi.com today. That's visit usvi.com.
Ford doesn't sell as many Explorers as I thought they did.
No?
It's not a tiny number. It is around 190,000. But I remember in the late 90s, they were selling like 400,000 of those. I mean, like those.
Are they still I feel like they're still the most popular police fleet car that you can purchase, I would guess.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean,
I haven't seen anything else in terms of police.
No.
What was the police department that bought a bunch of Teslas?
Somewhere out in California. Yeah.
Funny stuff.
Somewhere out there. Let's see. This piece from the Wall Street Journal. The Fed forecasts stagflation.
Well, I hope not, because the Fed playbook for stagflation is pretty much pray.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, is and the Fed's talked about this, the way they handle a stagflationary scenario in which growth slows and inflation goes up is they basically say it's triage. Which area is a bigger concern, and that's the one we'll address.
And, which one's the bigger concern is probably whichever one comes first. Because I think there's a path where if you get this, it could come in waves. And so, okay, we're getting hit by the inflation first. All right, hike up rates. Oh, boy, 6 months later, here comes the unemployment story, so we need to deal with that. And honestly, talk to experts, like there isn't a Fed playbook for stagflation.
No, look, you can only move policy in one direction at a time. You can't simultaneously ease and tighten. I mean, technically you can, but it just wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
You could be like, well, we're going to start a bond buying program, but we're going to raise the Fed funds rate. Well, that doesn't really do anything for anyone.
Again, stagflation being the combination of a stagnating economy, i.e. recession, with a period of high inflation. Last time we got it was the 1970s. And the Fed's...
You can make a case we saw it in early 22 as well.
You could, but it was very brief. And
it wasn't as staggy.
Yeah.
It was more inflation-y.
In either case, the Fed's tools can only really address one of those problems at a time.
Yeah. So I think the way it works is if you've got inflation starting to tick up, back towards 4 and unemployment staying low, Fed's going to hike.
Yeah.
If unemployment starts ticking up towards 5 and inflation's still hanging out around 3, Fed's going to cut. Like that's kind of the basic framework that I use to look at it. We haven't seen any stagflation in the U.S. for 50 years, so we're all flying by the seat of our pants if that's what we actually get. Quick break here. When we come back, we got Hour 2, including we got a big announcement about the show coming up at the start of Hour 2, right after this.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit GoRedForWomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, two of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Mike, a lot of times when we talk about financial planning, it's with the idea of having your money available to you to use when you need to use it. How do trusts work to kind of keep that idea going, not just for yourself, but also for the next generation as well?
Sure, and it doesn't always need to be the next generation, because how many times have you heard somebody say, hey, look, I raised my kids, they're in a good spot, I want the less check I write to bounce. I'm spending this money. But, there can be situations where trust can benefit even a married couple in the event of a lawsuit or a nursing home that's unexpected, especially if there's a big age gap. That can be critical. But for next generation planning, it gets much more common, and especially in the New England area where most states have an estate tax, there's a lot that can be done from a multi-generational planning perspective to, if not eliminate those taxes, at least mitigate them to a large degree. I mean, you think about here in New England, the value of your primary residence, which you sell, it might not be subject to capital gains tax, but if you die, is most certainly subject to estate taxes. There's a lot that can be done in the way of trust planning.
Our guide this month is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and you can request it by calling 800-393-4001. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, and the guide this month is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan and details a number of ideas about how you can fit trusts into your financial plan.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Hour 2 on the Financial Exchange. Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you. And markets, not doing a ton, actually. I mean, I got to tell you, you have Nvidia reporting earnings yesterday, and Nvidia's still up 5%. You had a whole bunch of tariffs struck down by the U.S. Court of International Trade after hours. And all the S&P 500 can manage is 27 points?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. The Dow is up 10 points, and the NASDAQ, which is obviously heavier in tech and has, Nvidia in it, is up at 159 points, almost 1%. So this market today looks an awful lot like 23 and 24, where tech was leading and everything else was kind of like, hey, what do we do? So that's what we've got going on in markets right now. The Russell 2000 is still negative, actually. So all you small cap fans out there, not today. Bonds, we've got the 10-year Treasury moving down a touch in terms of yield, down to 4.44%, off about 4 basis points. I'll touch on a couple of data points we got this morning shortly. We got oil, West Texas Intermediate, reversing its earlier gains, now down 65 cents a barrel after being up $1.25 in overnight trading. And we've got gold reversing its earlier losses, now up 15 an ounce after being down about $40 an ounce last night. It's at $33.09 and 90 cents. Before we go further, we do have some big news of our own to announce for the Financial Exchange. Specifically, starting next Monday, June 2nd, the 11 o'clock hour of our show is going to be airing nationally on Sirius XM Channel 132, their business radio channel.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Got that Sirius in the new minivan? I'll be tuning in.
You doing a trip, all across the country?
Yeah.
You got us. 132 on Sirius XM, and that's going to be from 11 to noon, effective next Monday. So we're pretty excited about that, and we'll try to not let it go to our heads.
Not possible.
But it's going to go to our heads if we're being honest about this. So we're going to be even more insufferable than we already are, and you got to deal with that. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the economic data that we got this morning, specifically one piece, because I don't care about how much the natural gas stocks in the United States changed last week. I don't even know what to do with the fact that they went up by 101 billion cubic feet.
Didn't know that's how we measured it.
Don't know if that's a lot, a little, or whatever. What I do want to talk about is what we saw from weekly jobless claims. Yeah. And a couple pieces here. The first is initial jobless claims moved up from 226,000 up to 240,000. And in and of itself, 1 week is not anything big. We saw a 1 week spike into this range back in April. It turned out that it was just a bunch of New York school bus drivers that filed for unemployment all at once, and then it reversed the week after. This, I went through the state level data, and there's nothing that stands out in that fashion. So this does seem to be
broad-based increase.
Something that's broader. What I will say, we're entering the point in time where for the last 2 years, something has seemed off about the seasonal adjustment factors, and we've seen these mid-year rises in the seasonally adjusted jobless claims that have not been explainable by anything other than, hey, they're not doing a good job with the seasonal adjustments. This is happening a couple weeks earlier than that's happened. So, again, I don't know that this is anything. I'm not sitting here being like, oh, it's the first sign of recession. No, like I'm not doing that. But I am saying, okay, we need to watch this, because if this number, moves beyond kind of that 260,000 range, that would indicate to me that it's a little bit different from what we've been seeing the last couple of years.
Yeah.
If we get up to like 255 and then it rolls over in mid to late July, it's the same exact thing that we've seen the last couple of years. So just something to watch, and I don't know if it's worth being excited about or concerned about yet, but it's there, and we'll see. The part of this that is a little bit concerning is continuing jobless claims, which moved up to 1,919,000. That was a jump of around 30,000 from the prior week. And it's not just that it's a jump from the prior week, but the pace of gains relative to last year is increasing. We've kind of been in this range for a while now, where continuing jobless claims have been going up like 3 to 5% year over year.
Right.
This moves us up into the range where we're seeing continuing jobless claims moving up about 7% year over year. And the potential for that acceleration is we're at kind of a dangerous point in the labor market with what's known as the beverage curve, which basically is job openings compared to unemployment. And when the openings rate gets below a certain point, it starts to potentially trigger a more rapid rise in unemployment. And so the thing to watch, and one of the first signs that you can have a slowing labor market, isn't a jump in unemployment claims, because companies don't lay their people off unless they have to. Like if you have people working for you that know your business, you cling to them. You grab them metaphorically by the shirt and say, I'm not letting you go anywhere. You don't actually do that in reality, because you get sued, HR, and it would be bad. But the first place that you see signs of a weakening labor market is continuing claims rising, because that's companies saying, we're holding on to our people, but we're not going to hire the same way. And so people spend more time out of a job and kind of treading water, waiting for what comes next.
There are a few groups of people that don't appear anywhere in these numbers too, that will eventually show up in the unemployment numbers, or the overall unemployment rate. One would be new graduates that are entering the labor market can't file for unemployment. They haven't worked in the labor force.
Correct.
So they can't file for unemployment.
Correct.
If they're not finding a job after graduating college, too bad. You're not getting paid. The other piece would be government workers don't show up in these data points. That's been a still small number overall, but not showing up in these weekly jobless claims because they have their own system to file under. And so, just two buckets of people there that are likely experiencing higher unemployment at the moment that are not being reflected.
So I think this is stuff that bears watching. It is not a 5-alarm fire. It is something where you say, okay, here's a data point. Let's see where this goes over the month of June, where we're going to get 4 more of these. And if there's any continued trend upward in these, okay, like maybe there's, a problem that's building here. There's a decent chance that this is just statistical noise, and we're just going to have to wait for more data to show up over the next several weeks here before we know that. Anything else to add on this?
No.
Okay. Let's take a quick break then. When we return, we've got trivia, and then we'll talk about Elon Musk stepping down from the Trump administration.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Trust can play a key role in your financial strategy, and understanding the different kinds and their purpose may help you make the right decisions for your overall plan. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Trusts are utilized for a variety of reasons, but the most basic use is to make settling an estate easier. Trusts have the ability to bypass probate, which can save you significant time and money while allowing your assets to be distributed directly to your beneficiaries. Our new guide this month is called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and you can get it by calling 800-393-4001. Learn about trusts and their possible benefits to your financial strategy by requesting your free guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001, or request it online at armstrongadvisory.com. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John and are consistently voted one of the top Caribbean vacation destinations. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, rich history, and a vibrant nightlife. Book your trip now to visit America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. For reservations and more information, go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and today is Noel Gallagher's 58th birthday. Noel and his brother Liam are the most prominent members of a recently reformed British rock band that was extremely popular back in the 90s. Trivia question today: what is the name of the rock band headlined by Noel and Liam Gallagher? Once again, what is the name of the rock band headlined by Noel and Liam Gallagher? Be the ninth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you'll win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the ninth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
In a post on X yesterday, Elon Musk said, and I quote, "As my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Donald Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending." And he is now departing the Department of Government Efficiency. And I think the big thing is if you actually look at the spending data coming out of the U.S. Treasury, we haven't really seen any meaningful inflection from last year.
No.
It's basically still moving the exact same pace. Musk was originally talking about trying to find $2 trillion annually in savings. It's unclear if they've even found $100 billion annually in savings. I think that this is an important marker when coupled with what Scott Bessent said over the weekend, and talking about, hey, how do you deal with the U.S. deficit the way that it is? And the messaging for the first 4 months of this Trump term, as well as kind of the 3 months after the election, were all about, hey, we're going to get that deficit down, we're going to take some pain, and then we're going to be able to just grow once we get through that. The messaging that's coming from Bessent right now is pretty much, hey, we need to, grow our way out of this by increasing total GDP faster, and that's the way that we're going to deal with the deficit rather than trying to cut spending in a meaningful way. These are Bessent's own words saying this. And
look, I think everyone expressed a fair bit of doubt about Elon Musk's ability to do anything meaningful on the government spending side. But he's, most recently also been lobbing criticisms at the tax bill. His quote the other day was he's disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decreases it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing. It is I think, admission on the part of members of the White House that, look, cutting spending is pretty darn challenging without Congress taking action.
I think the marker that's out there now is, hey, 6% to 8% U.S. deficits annually, they're here to stay. I'm not saying this is good or bad.
Yep.
But when the Secretary of the Treasury is saying, hey, the way out of this is to grow our way out as opposed to we're going to, cut spending, that's telling to me because that is a very different environment from an economic and market standpoint that you have to deal with from, hey, we're going to cut spending as the primary mechanism to try to deal with the deficit.
Well, and to me, this all ties back into the court ruling yesterday evening about the tariffs. And as we talked about, I think the Trump administration does have paths by which they can reimpose these and still see the revenue come into the Treasury that they were planning on as part of this. But Chuck, you and I have talked about over the course of the last few weeks that while early on the tariffs were pretty unclear what the end goal was with them, was it to bring manufacturing back? Was it to punish China, punish Europe, punish others and get them to change behavior? Was it to raise revenue? The seeming conclusion we were coming to, especially after that trip to to the Middle East, was, revenue raising seems to be a key goal here. If that's no longer possible, or if it's at least hindered in some meaningful way by the courts, then you might be closer to that 8% side on deficit spending this year than the 6%. And that's been the one thing that I think could prevent this tax bill from actually happening. Now, members of Congress have not really cited the tariff revenue, or at least they have not pushed it as, hey, this is why we're passing this, is because tariffs are going to offset all of this, because plenty of members of the Republican Party are opposed to tariffs too. But if the deficit hawks actually come out to play this time, that'd be the only thing that I think could derail this entire plan for the Trump administration, would be yields moving up again.
Well, let's even forget about the bill in particular, and let's look at a world in which you've got persistent 6% deficits in the United States. What does that mean for two different pieces? The first is, what does it mean for someone who's lending money either to the federal government or to an individual or corporation? If you've got persistent 6% deficits, meaning, hey, each year the United States government has to go and borrow 6% of GDP in order to pay its bills.
And then a lot more if it goes to war or has a recession.
Right. You have a recession that immediately goes to somewhere between 8 and 10. You toss a war on top of that, you're going up, 12, 15% deficits in a hurry.
Yep.
What does that mean about the rate of return that an individual or a business, aside from a forced buyer like a life insurance company or a pension fund that needs to buy, a certain amount of treasuries in order to meet its obligations, what does that mean for the demand of that marginal buyer in a world where, hey, deficits are going to be going up, 6% of GDP each year? Are you going to be comfortable buying a U.S. Treasury at 4 or 4.5%?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't think anyone knows. The other thing that, obviously...
We're in uncharted territory is the point that I'm making.
Completely uncharted. And the answer to that question is also heavily influenced by what's going on in the rest of the world. And what's going on in the rest of the world right now, at least, is the same thing. Germany's talking about big deficits. The UK is talking about big deficits. Japan's talking about big deficits.
China's talking about them.
China's talking about them. And so what we have experienced over the last 20-some-odd years has been foreign buyers of U.S. government debt subsidizing our cost to borrow and accepting these deficits. New world. Does it change? Because if it does, and yields have to move higher, meaning there's just not enough buyers out there to entice at 4.5% on the 10-year, 5% on the 30-year, then it means those 7% mortgage rates we're all still frustrated with and not used to,
potentially moving higher,
go higher and stay there for longer.
Which then you talk about how.
And there's no solution to that, by the way, for the Trump administration. There is no easy fix to that other than saying, okay, we finally will curtail spending.
No, and by the way, you don't want any administration to be able to directly set the cost of money for mortgages.
Yeah, no, of course.
I always say, think of the person that you think is least qualified to run the federal government and think about what they would do if they were in that seat with that power. Would you want them to be able to, control exactly where mortgage rate? No, because you know what I would do if I were president, Mike? 0% mortgages.
Woo!
Man, people would love me.
They would like you a lot, yeah.
When I'm out of office, they wouldn't like me anymore.
No.
Because eventually you got to pay the piper. But while I'm in office, man, they would love me. Got to tell you. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we've got the answer to our trivia question. And then we'll talk a little bit about artificial intelligence because, yeah. And then we'll also talk about bonds because, well, yeah. Right after this.
bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Congratulations to the students and staff of Emergence Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts for their winning submission to the state's Power of Presence initiative. The school's amazing video will help spread the word about the power of students being in school every day. To see the video and learn more, visit us at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
A solid financial plan has many layers, and trusts are often a core piece. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Understanding the various kinds of trusts that exist can be extremely beneficial to your strategy. If you're retired or nearing retirement age, a trust may help you with a wide range of issues, such as asset protection, tax efficiency, and avoiding probate. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. We'll discuss a number of different trusts and the areas in which they may help and how to determine which one may be right for you. Even if you already have a trust in place, this guide can provide a description of certain issues that may arise and could help you decide if changes are needed. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your guide today, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? Simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866 848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, what is the name of the rock band headlined by Noel and Liam Gallagher? That would be Oasis. Mary in Linfield, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Mary. We play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
We got a couple of congratulatory texts, Mike, on our upcoming edition of Sirius XM Radio, picking up an hour of our show starting on Monday. The 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern Time hour is going to be on Sirius Business Radio Channel 132, so we're going nationwide, and whether you're renting a car somewhere, whether you're driving in your own car with a little Sirius XM.
We had already hit both the coasts, but we had a really big gap in the middle there.
About 3,000 miles.
Yeah. So we're filling that gap.
We're filling the gap. So that's nice, and thank you to the people that texted us congratulating us. We are very
Do we have some names?
excited
People
about
that texted us?
No. Congratulations and congrats appear to be their names.
All right, fair enough.
So thank you to congratulations and congrats. Piece today from Barron's. Tucker?
Let me confirm. What's the headline?
Retirees often feel guilty spending money.
Yeah.
Barron's? Mm-hmm. Okay. Piece today from Barron's. Retirees often feel guilty spending money. Here's how they can get over that.
We don't talk about this one a lot because it is a little bit more fun to talk about the ones that spend recklessly and irresponsibly. It's just a more entertaining story of the guy that bought the boat and then, sunk his life savings into the boat, and it's sad, but
the couple that bought the house on Long Island for their dog. You remember that one that we covered?
Yeah. So, those are entertaining stories to catch, but I have to say I see this one probably more often than the former, which is some of that good old Yankee guilt when it comes to spending. And sometimes it manifests in guilt. Other times I see it in fear of spending or fear of pulling from savings.
I don't believe in guilt.
Oh, well, that's...
Except in, verdicts of a trial. But otherwise, I think guilt is a useless emotion to have.
Pretty narcissistic.
What do you mean? I don't think so.
No?
Guilt is not shame. Shame I believe in.
Shame versus guilt.
Guilt I do not believe in. Shame I think is a something we need more of because I don't think there's enough shame in society these days.
Guilty, yeah.
Feeling guilty is basically saying, hey, something good happened to me and I'm not entitled to it, which is the opposite side of, oh, how could this bad thing be happening to me? Ultimately, whether something's good or bad, it happened. And so if you happen to be blessed with a level of wealth that you never dreamed you could imagine, I don't think you should feel guilty or necessarily fearful about using that to improve your life and the lives of people around you.
So the worst case scenarios that I've seen play out from this guilt and fear have been really just devastating. I mean, you and I have both known people personally who work their butts off, work longer than they have to.
Don't love the work they do.
Don't love the work they do. It's stressful. It hurts their health. And then I've personally seen them in their 60s retire and drop dead. That's like the worst case outcome from this type of scenario is that version of it. And it is devastatingly sad to see that. Less extreme versions of this, though, I saw it just the other day. People are worried about touching their savings. And so they will make financial decisions sometimes that don't make a ton of sense. For example, I don't want to touch my savings. I've spent so much of my time putting money into that 401k. I'm pulling my Social Security instead. I'm pulling it earlier than I would otherwise need it and would otherwise be recommended because I just don't want to touch this. I'm pulling the pension. I'm doing this, that, or the other because I'm worried about touching this bucket of money and I view another bucket differently. The Social Security, that's the government's money. I'm going to take that instead of touching my own money and foregoing all the growth that it would have in order to do so. And so a lot of this comes from fear, sometimes guilt. A lot of the other stuff comes from lack of understanding.
Yeah.
How much can I take?
Yep.
Is it sustainable? Will I be able to? Which order should I take it in? Should I be looking at my Social Security versus my IRA versus my Roth? What's the right bucket to pull it from? And oftentimes it leads to paralysis. Sometimes that manifests in working longer than you have to. Sometimes it manifests in making other bad financial decisions because of it. And I do see it really frequently. And if you're facing down those types of decisions, A, they're common. B, get some help from a professional like the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group who can help guide you through the tax benefits and drawbacks of one strategy versus another and really plan out for the long term. Hey, over the next 25 years, what's going to be the right decision for me when it comes to these really important ones that get hyper-concentrated from ages 55 to 75? There are so many more important decisions around that time period than really any others when it comes to your retirement. If you have questions like that, give us a ring. 800-393-4001 is for the Armstrong Advisory Group. You can check us out online at armstrongadvisory.com and book a callback right there. But the phone number, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
One other item, just on that topic. It's okay if you make stupid decisions with your money.
What do you mean by that?
Not everything has to be the optimal financial decision. Like you
True.
The big ones like around Social Security and like how to withdraw money from your portfolio. Yes, like you want to have like good frameworks there. But occasionally it's okay to just be like, hey, I'm doing something that's fun, and it's okay if this isn't the best financial decision as long as you're going in eyes open.
Oh, and I actually mentioned that when it comes to Social Security even too. Like, hey, is this decision just going to allow you to live a more comfortable life and be more confident? Then yeah, do it. Like you can afford to do it. You want to do it, go do it.
Right.
But the informed piece is really important.
It is. You want to know the consequences of everything so that you can then appropriately say, yeah, this is going to cost me X $100 over this time period.
And I think it's worth it.
I'm okay with that. And I can deal with that because it's going to be fun. And I can take my grandchild on a trip, or I can go and, join the chess club I've always wanted to join. I don't know if those are expensive or not, but
I saw in a local group that somebody was trying to start up a fountain pen club. So,
a fountain pen club.
Maybe having more time to do that.
Like you collect
local,
fountain pens?
Unclear. You write with them. You compare. Unclear what the
I honestly,
club was.
I love that stuff.
I thought
like
you might.
I just love. Here's the thing: we've all got like this stuff that gets us excited, and some of it's probably not just oh, like how about those Red Sox? Like don't get me wrong. I used to love the Red Sox when I was a kid. Now that I have kids.
Suck.
No, it's not even the suck. It's just like now that I have a family of my own. 162 games is just too many for me to watch. Can't do it, man. So instead I watch none. But in any case, I just, everyone has those, kind of weird little idiosyncrasies that they like, whatever the word is. I don't know, you want to start a fountain pen club? Great. Hey, you're joining the Daffodil Appreciation Club? Even better.
Can we talk about one that is in our stack today that...
Yes.
I have kind of relentlessly mocked Disney adults in the past.
Oh, no, I haven't.
I know, you haven't. I have. And so this one actually has me excited. Disney is going to be opening their theme parks, or already has, with a theme called Disney After Hours, which allows you into the parks on limited days from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. for a hefty price, which is generally more than the general full-day price, but... The promise is basically no lines, unlimited food, and get to walk around the park at night and not experience all the crowds and screaming kids.
But it's not adults only.
It's not. You can bring your kids there, but it's 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., so I just know personally if I let my kids stay up till 1 a.m., I would have a horrible rest of my week. So I don't expect to see a lot of 8-year-olds there.
But you could.
Love the idea.
But you could.
Love the idea of this. Gets me excited about Disney. I'm not a Disney enthusiast.
Does sound good.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's right after this.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play The Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who can make sure your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and their new monthly guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may correct an issue that could come back to haunt you in the years to come. Proper estate planning is crucial to you being able to enjoy your later years, and it may be the difference between retiring comfortably or living under incredible financial pressure. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
If you missed any of today's show, catch up whenever you want on our YouTube page. Find daily show segments and full shows. Just go to youtube.com and search for The Financial Exchange. This is your home for breaking business and financial news. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
As promised, we are now joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's. We're going to be talking Nvidia here. Paul, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing? Thanks for having me on this Thursday.
Absolutely. Great to have you a day early. And let's talk a little bit about NVIDIA's earnings last night. What was notable?
Just very solid results despite the obvious concerns about Trump's tariffs and what it means for, China sales in particular. I mean, the data center revenue grew, I think was 73% year over year. It really does show that AI chip demand remains strong despite concerns, not just about tariffs, but the threat from cheaper AI technology. Remember, NVIDIA's stock got rocked earlier this year because of the revelation of DeepSeek, the Chinese technology that was offering AI services at a lower cost. I think a lot of those big quote unquote hyperscalers, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Alphabet, they're still spending very aggressively to roll out AI technology. And usually they're using NVIDIA AI chips like Blackwell and H20.
When I look at NVIDIA, the thing that stands out to me is that their profit margins are just massive. Is it really a case where there's no one else who can, compete with them on the quality or the capability of the processors? Because otherwise it seems to be an area that's kind of ripe for competition, where you're sitting there and you're like, man, like the profit margins are like 50-60%. There's got to be someone who wants to eat into that.
Yeah, it's a great question. There, I think, were some concerns about AMD potentially gaining some ground. Intel, which has obviously struggled mightily to gain a foothold in the AI chip and data center space. So far, though, Jensen Huang and NVIDIA has had this market largely to itself, and it seems to be the type of environment where companies realize that they have to have these, AI features, and if they are going to do it, they need to do it with NVIDIA because they are the best quality chips. Until you start to see some legitimate competition from lower priced semiconductor manufacturers offering a pretty good product, I think NVIDIA's margins are going to remain pretty high. But that is the risk. But NVIDIA's valuation has come down from its peak, so I think investors are pricing in a little bit of potential margin erosion at some point.
Explain to me how this is either similar or different from what we saw with Intel back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Because I look back there, and I was poking around on this earlier today, and Intel had fat margins, 40-50%. Everyone was buying PCs. That was what you needed to have. And then they go through, 3 or 4 different CapEx cycles, and we're sitting here, 25 years later going, okay, like maybe that wasn't, where technology ended. I'm not saying fast forward 25 years because I don't think that's realistic, but is it right or wrong to see parallels between Intel in the tech bubble and NVIDIA today?
Yeah, Intel, you could say Cisco as well.
Yeah.
I think that you're right that NVIDIA is going to have to continue to innovate. They won't be able to command such pricing power indefinitely if they aren't producing whatever products are needed by their end customers. That is the question, though. I think that right now we are still in such the early stages of generative AI. For all of the hype about ChatGPT and DeepSeek, I think that it still is something that gets a lot more talk than is being used practically, particularly by the average consumer. And businesses are going to use AI a lot more aggressively as well to cut costs. So to your point, it is impossible to say, will NVIDIA in 2050 look like Cisco and Intel? Now, I don't know if we can go that far ahead. Who knows? Who's going to be leading NVIDIA in 2050? It could be Jensen Huang. I'm guessing that 25 years from now, he might be retired. But it is definitely a gamble always with technology stocks to bet on the future that a company that is currently in the lead will be able to adapt. But I mean, look at companies like Microsoft and IBM that have actually had some momentum lately. They are quote unquote old tech stocks that have found religion in the cloud, in AI, and have been able to emerge as current leaders as well. So, you have to hope that Nvidia will stay on top of the trends, whatever they may be, even when it may no longer be generative AI. It's whatever the next flashy new thing is.
Very good. Paul, appreciate you joining us today. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
It's Paul LaMonica from Barron's talking about Nvidia.
I'd like to talk about focusing on perhaps the wrong things in retirement for a moment here.
What are the wrong things?
Well, sometimes we get obsessed with cost of living, and Travel and Leisure has a piece today about one of the most popular retirement places in the United States for low taxes and good weather. And they identify the city of Rio Verde, Arizona, as the number one destination across Arizona and Florida to retire. And they look at cost of living. They also just looked at, hey, how many people are over the age of 65 living in this community? It's a high concentration. There's a lot of retirees.
Is that considered good or bad?
I don't know. I guess it's your opinion. And,
Because
hey,
there's some people who retire and are like, I want to be in a community that has kids and families.
Right.
And other people are like, no, just give me a bunch of people my age.
So the article goes on to talk about Rio Verde and the cost of living and general affordability across Arizona. But the name was ringing a bell to me. And so I went and looked at it. And, oh, yeah, Rio Verde just happened to be that town back in 2023 that completely lost access to water in Arizona because there was no water in the new developments that they were putting. Do you happen to remember this story where they were literally... There was an entire town, the Rio Verde foothills, that lost access to water on January 1st of 23 after Scottsdale ended their water hauling service to the area and cut them off. And for 6 months until the governor signed a bill giving them access to water again, the town did not have water, and they were
What'd
shipping.
you have to do?
You ship it in via big truck. So, again, there are a lot of things that go into where you retire, and for me, one of the top concerns I would have, no matter where I live, would be
water.
Can I turn the faucet on and get water?
Yeah.
And that was apparently not the case for a period of time in the Rio Verde foothills. So, I don't know. Be careful about your focus on cost of living.
I'm currently watching a video of a bunch of people in cow onesies dancing at the Bitcoin conference. This is it.
Bitcoin's weird, man.
I don't really know what to make of it. But there's a bunch of people in cow onesies dancing at a Bitcoin conference. Things you don't see at the bottom. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back tomorrow, we got more Financial Exchange.